This is an intro. Who needs an intro? I don't need an intro. This is just a vape show. It's just a vape show. Vape show. This is an intro. Who needs an intro? I don't need an intro. This is just a vape show. It's just a vape show. Vape show.
YouTube, what is up? I'm your homeboy Josh, back at you, and today we're taking a look at a twofer. We're taking a look at the new Mage devices from CoilArt. CoilArt came out with the Mage, I don't know when, a few months ago, 6 months ago, something like that. Anyway, since then, they've come out with two new Mage devices, and they're completely different than the original Mage, which I think is kind of cool and kind of weird. There's no real similarities between the two. Not really. Like, there's one that's the Mage GTA, and there's one that's the Mage Combo RDTA and RDA. Cool. For whatever reason, you've decided to keep calling your devices the Mage. But they're completely different. And then you have the Azeroth. What makes that device an Azeroth? What makes these devices the Mage? I don't get it. I get it's marketing, I get that, but it's, how are you defining them? But there's like some similarities between this device to the Mage. Like this device, this is the Mage GTA. The Mage GTA is basically the Mage style airflow system. It comes with this big fat Delrin drip tip, which is like a big old top hat, and it's very comfy. It's also ginormous, it's big. And it's conical, but conical down. So it like comes out like that. It's kind of interesting. And a spare tank, you get your CoilArt vape band. They always come with a CoilArt vape band. They also come with this rainbow assortment of O-rings. And you get some spare screws. And these screws are so big. They're like the biggest screws ever. And that's my problem with a lot of the stuff from CoilArt. And it's my problem with this device too. You see a name like CoilArt and you instantly think, oh, I can put some amazing builds in here and it's going to be awesome. Well, this device, you actually can put some amazing builds in here. Look at the contacts on these screws. That's your sort of standard screw. This is a screw that comes with the aeronaut. That's the screw that comes with the Mage GTA. This thing is huge. It's bigger than the head of that screw from the aeronaut. And I see a screw like that, and I get excited. I get excited to screw. Anyway, I see a screw like that, and I'm like, I'm going to build something chunky and awesome for this thing, and it's going to be badass. And I get excited, and then CoilArt usually lets me down. And this is a case of being let down as well. The airflow is just too tight. The wicking isn't sufficient enough. I've wicked it about 3-4 times and it's just not sufficient wicking for these sorts of massive builds. It's just not made for it. And that's not to say it's a bad device. I actually like it. I kind of like it, okay? It's better than I thought it was going to be, put it that way. It's got this interesting thing where they've sort of raised the deck up and enclosed it in sort of an RTA meets a Jenny RTA in a single device. And I've seen this sort of configuration before. DigiFlavor, Geek Vape's sister company, put out a few devices like this, and I never got around to actually completing the review of them yet. I'm going to though, but it's the same sort of problem that I have with this device that I have with their device. This configuration creates air bubbles, and it creates air bubbles underneath the deck. You'll be vaping and it'll be like a quarter of a tank, a third of a tank still full, but you can't access the juice. See what I mean? This tank has about a third, maybe a quarter of a tank left. It's not traveling to the wicking because this thing is creating this bit of air bubble where no juice can travel and it can't make it to the wicks. See all these air bubbles in here? I don't get tanks like this, man. I've seen a few tanks designed in this fashion, and I just don't get it. It just doesn't make any sense. It just kind of collects in the side and won't get down there. That's annoying. So really, when this thing gets down to about halfway down, that's where I need to fill it. So really, I need to fill it every 1.5 milliliters, I find. Back to the deck. It's this wire trap configuration, right? It looks like it can handle these beefy coils. So I set about creating a Staple Helix coil. I twisted 2 strands of 28 gauge nichrome and I sandwiched 8 strands of 0.3 stainless steel ribbon wire. And then I anchored one end over on my swivel tools with the vise, and I anchored the other end over with my drill. I'm not actually using the drill for this build, but you know, it anchors it nice and neat there. It works well. I'm going to helix it with 34 gauge, and every third twist I am by hand pulling it tight and going over, finding the right twist on the other side to anchor it into, and pulling it back and pulling it forward and pulling it back. And the whole time I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to put this in the Mage GTA and I'm going to put it in the Combo RTA too. And we're going to see, it's going to be awesome because these things are made for, you know, these awesome big builds. Just looking at them, I can tell. You know what the decks are? The deck on the GTA is made for a build like this. It works perfectly in there. It fits perfectly. It looks awesome. There's plenty of room. I could have put in another wrap or 2, and I could have put it around a 4mm bit. This thing just doesn't keep up with it. This is a 0.11 ohm build, and to feel its full effects, I would have to vape it at about 160 is where I really need to vape that to feel its full effect, where I would want to vape a coil that ohmed out at about 0.11 ohms or so. No, it can't keep up. Even that short pull, it just can't do it. It's burning wick, man. Burning wick. Because of the way the airflow is designed, it's designed just like the original Mage, which a decent airflow, but it's a restrictive kind of draw. I've got to vape it more like 110, 120. It keeps up fine at 110, 120. It works great. You know, 90 watts or so, something like that might perform even better. And let's be honest, for most people, 90 watts is more than you'd ever need in an RTA. I mean, it performs awesome at 90 watts. That's saying a lot for an RTA. But when I see a deck like this thing has, and it just invites those kinds of builds, the airflow is just not enough. The wicking is not enough for it to keep up with those sorts of exotic builds, those CoilArt kind of builds. That's what I mean why CoilArt kind of lets me down sometimes. This thing, on the other hand, this is the Mage Combo RTA RDTA. Yes! But my question is, why is this a Mage? Okay, I get that this is a Mage because it's got the airflow system, just like the Mage, and it's got the same kind of draw, just like the Mage, and it's deceptive in the kinds of builds you can put on it, just like the Mage was, because I thought I could put crazier builds in the Mage too. This thing reminds me more of the Azeroth. Why isn't this called the Azeroth combo? I mean, the Azeroth was a Genesis-style RTA with an exotic build kind of deck and plenty of airflow. It had a tank at the bottom, the build deck at the top, very, very similar in that way. It had a Goon-style deck. This has a Shuriken-style deck, but you can swap it out for a Velocity-style deck because, you know, they wanted to do that whole Combo RTA RDTA kind of thing where you can change out the deck. Cool and all. I'm not a fan of the way that they did it so much. It's just a little bit more work than the certain other Combo RDTA, which did it just a little bit better, I think. It's kind of weird the way that it works with the changing out the positive posts. This is your positive post right here. The top post is your positive post. The bottom post is your negative post. There's enough clearance there that the negative post isn't actually touching that positive pin anywhere. And you take your insulator, pop it right on over there, and that positive pin screws up into the positive post. So that's the only post that's making contact with. You just screw it all together. And just like that, you switched it to a Velocity style deck. But there are things about this thing that are actually really cool. It's got an airflow system that blows most other things out the water. The full bottom airflow, and it's got 4 ginormous 2.5 millimeter airflow holes on the side. Side airflow, bottom airflow. You can close off the side airflow completely. I kind of wish there was a way that I could just use the side airflow and not use the bottom airflow without the airflow being directed at the wrong side of the coil. That's the one real gripe I have about this thing. It's really good for those exotic builds, those CoilArt style builds. Live up to the name is all I'm saying. Live up to the CoilArt name, and this thing is. The Mage Combo RDTA does. It is super airy, but it doesn't have to be either. I mean, you can close it down to almost nothing on the bottom airflow. Close down the side airflow completely. That's like a milkshake through a straw, man. That's tight, okay? Or you can open it up. It's like a freight train, man. It is versatile. And I was able to put two of these Staple Helix coils in this device. 0.09 ohms. I vape this thing at 180, 190 watts. No problem. And when I say no problem, I mean I'm closing off the top airflow completely, the side airflow completely, bottom airflow about halfway open, and that's how I'm vaping this. That's how much airflow is available. That's with just half bottom airflow open. That's it. No side airflow. It's super flavorful. Ridiculous. Like catching my breath. That's a lot of flavor. Punch in the face flavor. That's like, whoa. Eyes tearing flavor. That's awesome. Wow. That's fantastic. What if we turn it all the way open? All the way open on the bottom airflow, all the way open on the side airflow. 200 watts. Handles it no problem. There's no heat anymore. There's no flavor anymore. Point is that it has that versatility. You can really do a lot with this particular topper. It can be a cloud making just machine, or you could turn it down, close down the airflow quite a bit, and make it into a pretty decent flavorful addy. How about halfway on the top airflow, halfway on the bottom airflow? That's nice. Halfway and halfway, side and bottom airflow. That's a great vape. So it works really well as an RDA. It works pretty well as an RDTA as well. With most of them that convert from an RDA to an RDTA, you kind of have to take out the positive pin. You might have to take off one of the posts in the deck. You have to remove the tank. I mean, it's kind of a hassle. Sometimes you get like a whole separate body for the RDA. It doesn't even use the top cap anymore. With this one, you screw off this bottom piece, which is very, very smooth. The threads are very, very good on this device. I'm impressed. There's a contact inside this extension piece that's built into the RDTA tank that just hooks in with the positive pin on the RDA, and it works great. Get everything filled on up. That's the way I like to do it, because it's kind of a hassle to fill it when it's in an RDTA form. That's one thing that I would probably change about it, is have a method at filling the tank, because the way it's set up, there isn't. And then this just screws on down into there, and it becomes an RDTA, just like that. That's all there is to it. And it's a 4 mil tank, just like that. I haven't seen anything else that works that way, that's that easy to convert from an RDA to an RDTA. That's impressive. Take about 5-6 pulls, turn it upside down, watch for an air bubble, maybe press the power button just to drive a little heat to the coils, and I'm off and running again. You can call it a con if you like. It doesn't really bother me. That's how I use the avocado. That's how I use a lot of other devices that are RDTAs. I use them like an auto dripper, like a Genesis style dripper. Turn it upside down, juice the wicks, and go. If there are any cons with the Combo RDTA, what I would say they are is that I wish it came with a drip tip adapter so I could use my own toppers there. I wish that I could use just side airflow and not the bottom airflow. That would be nice. I wish that the springs on the Shuriken style deck, when it opens and closes, I wish that those were not exposed. I kind of wish that they were tucked away just to preserve them a little bit longer. I worry about springs being exposed like that. I feel like if they were inside a chamber, that would work a little bit better. And that they should have called it the Azeroth Combo RDTA, I think. It holds a lot more in common with the Azeroth than the Mage, if you ask me, because it's an RDTA rather than an enclosed RTA system. It's got a clamping style deck. They switched out, the Goon style deck for the Shuriken style deck, added the springs, and it's a Genesis style device rather than an RTA, standard RTA system. So I feel like the naming structure could use a little consistency, but that's just me being nitpicky. That's just me criticizing marketing. Who really cares? And then it leaks. I mean, it's a bottom style airflow device, so it does leak occasionally. There's nothing you can really do about that. But in terms of Mage versus Mage, yeah, the Combo takes the cake, man. It blows the GTA out of the water. I really like Genesis style RDTAs, but this is one of the better ones if you ask me. Anyway guys, till next time, I'm your homeboy Josh. Vape on, vapors.